Welcome to my channel. This is another portrait demonstration video of a horse. I'm doing a landscape orientation, and I'm drawing this time with a yellow ochre dry pastel pencil instead of painting with a brush. And I kind of feel like I chose this because I was a little concerned about the level of detail and my unfamiliarity with the horse anatomy. Because of the angle, I wanted to make sure I got everything right, and I have a little more control with a pencil. In hindsight, that was probably a mistake. I should have just went with the brush. Adding this kind of detail in line really doesn't help me after all. And one of the problems is it's very light in color, and I stand pretty far back, 8 to 10 feet away, to try to get my measurements right. And you can see here that as I'm drawing the horse's face, it's actually too short and the angle is wrong, and I have to go and wipe this off and make some corrections. It's just harder to see because it's so light. So as I start darkening and I stand back, I could see, it's wrong, and I have to go and make some changes. Not just to the face, but then to the body underneath, and looking at some of those negative shapes. This is something that kind of bled over into the painting as well. As I started working in masses instead of in line, I had some of the same trouble with the detail, but you can see how easy it is here because it's dry pastel for me to just sort of brush away the parts I don't want and add some new lines to help get this a little more accurate. And I started making a couple of indications for different changes in the plane of the face, which are part bone and part muscle. And again, I think would have been better served if I had just done that with paint. And now I'm just making sure I get some of the other angles correct, and it's all freehand. I didn't do any measuring here other than some of the heights that I get from sight size. You'll see as I start skipping into the painting, I didn't film the whole thing. I did a lot of editing on this because a lot of it isn't really all that interesting, especially the background, as we start to get to that. So I'm just quickly putting this in, and this is more opaque than some of the backgrounds I've had in the past, and pardon my dogs in the background. So I wanted this to be a little more opaque because the transparent nature of this color as it is, if I put it on a little too thinly, then some of that ground starts to show through. And I wanted to make sure this was just dark, 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 as dark as I can get it. I'm using a very big brush here, and I'll quickly switch to a smaller brush to get some of these negative shapes between the legs. And really, these are like the shapes of like a cave opening, and if I'm looking at the cave opening I'm painting here, it's actually wrong. And as I step back, I could see that the angles are wrong, so I go back and try to reshape that, and I have to come back in with a paper towel to take some of that away. And the same is true for the body on the side, and I just corrected that, and you kind of missed that. But I'm getting into here now, just putting in some of the shadows around the face, and I'm putting these in a little heavier than they need to be before I get into the body. And now this is really just me massing in colors until I get to the chest where there's so much variation. Again, I made the mistake of getting into detail a little too soon, and I should have just painted these with larger shapes, as I do eventually start to do here. Once I start to realize all these little tiny shapes are not serving me well in terms of the whole, and I just started blocking that in, where I can then go in and add some texture and some variations in intensity and value. It just makes it a whole lot easier. And now I get to the face, which was the hardest part of this because there's a lot more variation going on in the face than there was really in the rest of the painting. And again, I was a little bit concerned about that, so I started doing a lot of little detailed shapes, and I would have been better served if I had gone just with larger masses and then played with that. The way I'm more comfortable doing, let's say, in a human portrait where I'm more familiar with the anatomy. But I did go and try to get some color on the, the reins or these leather straps. It was difficult to make that separate from the body of the horse color. I wound up going with more blue in that because it just had a little more of a cool highlight on it. And now I'm just trying to get some of those final tweaks done. The nose was a little bit off, and I had to go back in and strengthen some of those darks and reshape that a little bit before I went ahead and put the finishing touches on it. And this is the final painting. If you enjoyed this painting and this video, please click like. And if you'd like to see more of these, please subscribe to my channel. And you can find me on the web at robertosuzuki.art, on Instagram at Roberto_Suzuki_art, and on Facebook at fb.com/RobertoSuzukiArt. Thank you.